Okay, so then I will call to order the regular meeting for the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation. Before we get started, I want to make an announcement of an amended attendance. Dr. Gallagher has requested permission to attend remotely per AB 2449, which states that a board member may participate remotely per just cause should he or she have or be exposed to a contagious illness that will keep him or her from attending. I'd like to make a motion that Director Gallagher be able to attend remotely. Can I get a second on that?
There's 2 seconds.
You got it, Marcelo.
And you confirm that Dr. Gallagher has anyone over the.
Dr. Gallagher, is there anyone in the room with you over the age of 18?
No.
Right. On that note, I will take roll for this item. Director Fennecal?
Yes.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Tabasco?
Yes.
And Chair Nunez?
Yes. Okay, Rosie, can you please give a roll call whenever you're ready?
Yes. Director Fennecal?
Here.
Director Cox?
Here.
Director Tabasco?
Here.
Director Gallagher?
Here.
Here.
Chair Nunez?
Here.
All present.
Coming out of closed session, there's nothing to report out of closed session. I'm going to ask if there are any agenda modifications from staff from today. Seeing none, I'll move on to the public comment on matters not on today's agenda. We'll go first to folks in attendance virtually. Rosie, any hands raised?
No hands raised online.
Okay, any members of the public that want to speak to the board on matters not on the agenda? Go ahead, Bush.
This is just FYI, I tried to download the packet in the agenda and it wouldn't allow me to download it. Brought it up and it said unable to download that document. Just want to let you know.
Thank you for that. Also try the preview option. Sometimes that one has better luck. I have to try it a few times. I apologize. I'm not sure why it's.
Okay,
Finicky.
I couldn't figure it out for that.
Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you. Any other comments about any items not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment and ask if there are any comments from our board members. Comments from the board? All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items. Rosie, can you please read off the 2 items on the consent agenda?
Yes, we have the minute approval from May 29th and from June 11th. And then second, we have the policies and policy summary approval from June 2022.
Are there any questions from the board to staff about any of those, about either of those 2 items? Joe, any questions about any of the items?
No questions.
No questions. Okay. So I'll go out to public comment for any of those 2 items on the consent calendar. Any hands raised?
No hands online.
Anyone looking to speak on the public on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and I will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
You, Director Pimentel,
Yes.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Tabasco,
Yes.
Director Gallagher,
Yes.
Yes.
Chair Friel. Sorry, Chair Nunez.
Yes. Okay, so we'll move on to our discussion items. Item number 3. It's the Medical Executive Committee. We received a report in closed session about this, and any questions from the board to staff about the Med Exec Committee report? Seeing none, Joe, any questions? No? Okay. Seeing none, Rosie, any raised hands
No
online?
hands online.
Any person in person that would like to make any comments? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and I'll entertain a motion for item number 3.
I'll move to approve.
Quality and Patient Safety Council report.
What? Are we receiving a different report, the quality and patient safety?
Item two, number three, isn't that the quality and patient safety council report?
It's an attachment, but not a presentation.
Okay, sorry.
It's part of the MEC report.
I'll entertain a motion for,
Move to approve?
and I'll second that.
Director Pimentel?
Yes.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Tabasco?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Yes.
Chair Nugent?
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4. It's, this item's to, approve a tentative agreement for successor memorandum of understanding with the General Teamsters Local 853. Recommendation is to pass a resolution approving the tentative agreement and place a final signed MOU as receive and file consent agenda for a future agenda. Any questions about this item before we open it up for public comment? Questions? Okay, any raised hands on item number 4, Rosie?
No hands online.
Anyone looking to speak on item number 4, from the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for item number 4.
Move approval.
Second.
Katie?
Seriously?
Director Pimentel?
Yes.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Tabasco?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Yes.
Chair Nugent?
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, and it is the CEO report. See whenever you're ready.
Give me just a moment.
Okay, I have the privilege of updating you on some of our key measures of success, and they are moving in a really good direction. So recall that our strategic priorities are these 6. We have 2 at the district level and then the 4 at the hospital level: clinical quality and patient experience, talent and culture, clinical services and access, and financial sustainability are our 4 key measures of success for the hospital, with health equity at the center of everything. And so we have established our dashboard for those 4 hospital-focused items. Remember that red means we haven't quite made our targets yet. White is we're at our baseline. Green is really the target for the year, what we've set out to achieve, and blue is kind of going above and beyond that at the best practice. So our dashboard in May is the kind of the prettiest one we've had so far. There's actually no red on this dashboard for the first time since we started the dashboard at the beginning of this year. So I'll go through each one individually. This one is where the red fell off, which is our HCAHPS, our patient experience scores. So we were at 68% of patients giving us a 9 or a 10 on a scale of 0 to 10 on last month's dashboard. And now for last June through this May, 313 patients, 70.6% have given us a 9 or a 10, and that's above the 50th percentile nationally. Which was our baseline, and I think that's awesome. That's the first time I'll actually show you some trend graphs here in a second, so you can see where that's how far that's come over the years, which is great. Hospital acquired conditions, we are still at 27 over the rolling 12 months. We had one C. diff infection in May, and so that added to the count, but we had one drop off last year. So staying at 27, which is still better than where we were for 2023 at 32, but not yet at our full performance goal of cutting it by 50%. So we are still working on that, but the last couple of months have been trending in the right direction. Going back to patient experience, this is our trend over the last 13 months, which is pretty fun to look at. The last bar on the right there is a small n because it's early in terms of receiving surveys back for the most recent months, patients who were here in the most recent month. But the last 2 full months have been above our best practice target of the top quartile nationally. And so really nice trend line there. Over the last 6 months, so year to date, I mentioned that we were, for the rolling 12 months, we were at 70.6%. For the year to date, we're at 72.2% for that overall rate the hospital question. And for the how likely would you be to recommend the hospital, we're at 73.3%. And those are the 55th percentile and the 60th percentile nationally, respectively. So those are, at least for the data that I have, the highest that we've been. We go back, my data goes back to the end of 2019. And so for both of those questions, it's the highest it's been since, for all the data I have, looking at it on a rolling 6-month basis. So trying to get enough, of a sample size for each data point. It's about 100 to 150, 160 surveys for each of those data points. And the most recent one that we have right now is the highest we've been. So a really amazing credit to the people on my right and the people out in the audience and everybody watching at home and all of the staff and doctors and all of the wonderful care that they provide. So I wanted to celebrate that because that's really cool.
Yeah.
For our clinical services and access quadrant, we are green on both of these right now. Green for number of patients served on the 5-month year to date. And again, this is ambulatory surgery, special procedures, outpatient radiology, wound care, and outpatient rehab patients that we have seen. We are ahead of where we were last year and very slightly ahead of our budget. So that's where our target is hitting budget. This did dip down a little bit. Last month it was green also, but this month it's just barely green. So last month we were about 5% ahead of our target. This month we're about 0.1% ahead of target. So volumes are starting to get a little bit softer as the weather gets a little warmer. So we'll see how that continues to trend. But for now we are green. And transfers from Watsonville Hospital to another facility remains green. This is stayed at 2.2% for the last 3 dashboards, I think, trying to take care of as many people here as we can. And last year we were at 2.5%. Some changes to this quadrant, talent and culture. So we did have an improvement from last month to this month on staff retention. So it went from 76% to 78%. So we'll hope to keep that trending in the right direction. That's a rolling 12-month figure. And then for the first time, we have added our annual engagement assessment survey results at a high level. And this is this was put on the dashboard in order to establish a baseline. This is the first time we've done this survey. Our interim HR director, Margaret Morgan, will do a presentation diving a little bit deeper into those data and results and what we're doing about them. Because though we had good participation, 377 staff and 24 doctors, the results aren't quite where we want them to be. We want those numbers to be higher. When Margaret goes over it, she'll show how those rank nationally and how we compare to other hospitals. You'll be able to see that a little bit more. On the 2025 dashboard, we'll have targets around this and we'll be able to see red, green, how are we doing towards establishing improvement. And for the fourth and final quadrant, financial sustainability, we are still blue. We are slightly positive on the overall net operating income for the hospital plus the district, which is a very small, very slight positive, but it's well ahead of our budget. Our budget was at this point was to have been a negative 1.3 million. And we are at a positive 1,600. So that's a great improvement compared to our budget. Overall, just thought it'd be nice to see a dashboard trend. So just kind of the color coding and how it's changed over the first 5 months since we've had our new dashboard. Started with 3 reds in January, and now for May we're at no reds and 3 greens and a blue. So that's really pretty tremendous progress. So we'll try to keep that going throughout the year and see how the coming months go. That was my update from a high level. I also want to give an opportunity to Matt Branges, our Chief Operating Officer, and to Phyllis Stark, our Chief Nursing Officer, to give their updates.
Thank you, Steve. Just wanted to touch on a couple of points that we've been working on over the last month. One announcement, it's pretty exciting for us. We had our CDPH relicensing visit today, which we passed. So it's another step in getting to where we want to be with our CAPA. ultimately we want to be set up as a percutaneous coronary intervention lab, which still have quite a bit of work to do to get to that point, but one other hurdle that we passed today. On the physician front, we had ICU intensivist, Dr. Tony Medawar started earlier this month. He did his first 2 shifts. We're very excited to have him on board. It's bolstering our program and one other step to get away from tele-intensive services, which is our ultimate goal. Our residency program, we've been hearing a lot about residency program and we're getting to that point. Our agreement is with legal for their review and finalizing that agreement with that program. On physical therapy, we had a retirement, so we have a new leader in physical therapy. Bonnie Combs was with us for about 6 years, I believe, retired and has started enjoying her retirement based on the pictures she's been posting. And we have Darby is our new Darby O'Rourke is our new leader in there, and he's very excited. He worked with Bonnie for a few years, and she was mentoring him along the way. So he's very enthusiastic and excited to be part of the team. So we're happy to have Darby on board. June had worked for a grant for us for anesthesia machines, and I'm happy to announce those are arriving on Friday. So those will be in service. They're setting them up next week, so by mid next week, we should have those new anesthesia machines in service. And I just want to point out that, you know, historically here, we've always done what we can with what we have. And these Draeger anesthesia machines are really top of the line. There's not a better product that you can have for this purpose. So I'm very excited by the fact that we're changing our perspective a little bit. So happy about that. We talked about the pediatric crisis stabilization program that we've engaged with the county. We'll have some stats for May. We had a total of 12 patients from that program, 5 of which would have gone to Dominican before and came here instead. Of those 12 patients, 3 of them were discharged from our hospital with a safety plan. 1 was admitted for medical reasons at our hospital, and 8 were transferred to inpatient behavioral health units with the help of the Pacific Clinics team, which is engaged in helping us through that program. The length of stay, you know, the county reported to us that the majority were less than 24-hour length of stay. That's holding true for us in May as well. We had a total of 235 hours and 32 minutes for an average 19.6-hour length of stay for those patients. A couple of more physicians that we're talking to. We're talking to an orthopedic surgeon that will be visiting us soon, and as well as a local neurologist that we're talking to with the hopes of bringing him on board. We are working with UCSF on a space lead for Dr. Poirier, who spoke here at the last meeting about the goal of partnering with UCSF. So it's another step in that direction. And that concludes my report for today. Any questions?
Any questions before we go on to the nursing report? Okay.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I wanted to report out that last night and today we held our first nursing forum, and actually it's really clinical services forum. Was really excited to start talking to our nurses and our nurse leaders about how we're going to advance the practice of nursing here at Watsonville. Looking at the dashboard that Steve shared, we actually use that dashboard as a springboard to talk about how clinical services impact every single metric that we have. Bottom line, quality, care delivery, all the things. It's really exciting. And look forward to doing more of those and engaging the staff at the bedside and engaging our physicians and how we can all work together to better the care delivery system in our hospital. Wanted to share a wonderful story we had, and trying to bring good stories here. We had a ED patient who was from Santa Rosa area visiting family, had an injury, received excellent care in our ED, actually took the time to write a letter to us and identify Dr. Ferguson as a provider and call out our ED staff, and so we can share that broadly and send them a thank you card. So I want to make sure that we always bring a patient story to share with you, especially somebody who travels out of town and comes here and receives excellent care. Really nice to hear that kind of story. And the rest of the nursing service, we are simply just getting down to the brass tacks, looking at foundational nursing practice, and we have completed our standards of practice on the telemetry units, and now are rolling those around to each and every nursing unit. So that's the end of my report. Happy to take questions.
Any questions? Or we wrap up the CEO report? Thank you. Any questions for Steve or any closing comments, Steve? Or any...
No closing comments. Thank you.
Cool. We'll move on from item number 5 to item number 6, the CFO monthly financial performance update. Julie and Rosie, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm gonna start, good evening, start with May. May was a little tougher month for us. We did achieve our budget. We had budgeted to lose 623,000. Instead we lost 511,000. But I was like, when I'm reporting that we made money, not lost money. But as you can see, in most of the areas, we were actually fairly well within what we had budgeted. Our net operating revenue slightly above budget. This is typically where the swings in our monthly financials go, and it relates to how we value our AR as well as kind of what our volumes are in the mix of our services. But what that takes us to is really the fact that, as Steve reported, our year-to-date, we're basically at break even with $1,680 in net income, $1.3 million better than budget. So happy to report that. And as you can see, in all of the areas, we are generally doing pretty well from a variance of actual to budget, favorable. We're, still struggling in the supplies area. Supply costs have really been high. We are continuing to work on things related to our implementation of the group purchasing and trying to make sure we're getting the best pricing we can for the supplies, that we're compliant with contracts that can get us to better pricing or tiers that would get us to better pricing. And, we are seeing some higher expenses with the increase of the outpatient surgery volume that we've seen, more implants and back costs. So we're trying to do a little bit of drill down there to understand how that might be impacting this number, as well as we always look at the pharmacy costs and are aware that, some of our patients have some pretty high drug costs and how is that tipping the scales here. It had a little bit of impact. It has had a little bit of impact this month and in the year-to-date basis for us as well. From an admission standpoint, this was a pretty kind of normal month with 278 admissions, worked out to about 9 a day, which is kind of right in the middle of what our typical average is. Deliveries, we have a good delivery month. We had 79 deliveries this month, one of our higher months. We tend to run in the 65 to 70 range. So 79 was a good month for us. Strong length of stay. Our length of stay is up a little bit, 3.81, really right at budget, but it was a pop up from where we were last month, where we were at 3.59. Only takes a patient or two that's here for an extended period of time to make that amount of movement. And our average daily census this month, for the month of May, was 34. So it was up a bit from where we had been. And I'll just give you a sneak preview that June is kind of bounced back down. We're sitting more in the 31 range for June. On inpatient surgeries, we started out this year and we said they were kind of low from what we had previously been seeing. We've been able to attribute some of that to the work we've been doing about making sure that we're classifying properly between inpatient, outpatient, working on physician practices around identifying the medical necessity for an inpatient stay. And so some of the shift that we've seen in the first few months is really towards that, better designation of inpatient versus outpatient. All that being said, we did have an increase in the month of May up to 64. Last month we had been at 48. So 64 was getting closer to what we were seeing last year. And this time we actually saw a corresponding increase in the acuity of the patients. And some of that can be coming from surgery. Some of it could also be coming that, we had a little bit higher volume in the intensive care unit. So those are patients that are more ill and could drive a higher acuity or case mix. Outpatient visits, kind of following the same trend we've been seeing all along. Our ER outpatient visits, we averaged about 98 a day, slightly higher than last month. And so it took a little bit of drop on the non-ER outpatient visits, and we tend to have some swing there, and it can also be dependent if we have any issues with staffing or equipment and downtime where we might be rescheduling cases, but still pretty strong at 101 a day. Here's the surgeries, kind of inpatient versus outpatient. We continue to be very strong on the outpatient. We had 120 outpatient surgeries this month, and 22 were robot-assisted cases. From a payer mix standpoint, slight decline from last month. Last month, I was focused on commercial at 16%. This month it was at 13.7%. So a few fewer commercial patients. The Alliance and Managed Medi-Cal, which is our yellow bar here, pretty consistent with where it's been, 43.5%. And we have a slight uptick in our traditional Medicare patients at 28%. On the outpatient side, we're almost always pretty consistent month over month here. We a slight decline from 24 to 23.3 in the commercial. And we saw most of our increase this month in the Managed Medi-Cal Alliance, where we were at 49.3%. So I'm going to switch gears for a minute. That was just kind of the general month and year-to-date financial trends. But I wanted to give a cash update because we're always talking about, how are we doing with cash? That's our kind of most precious asset that tends to either help us get something done or keep us from doing something. So, when we look at our cash, we look at it every day, looking at what's coming in from our payers for patient services provided. We look at when we're getting those co-op or dish payments from the state and any other kind of payments that we might be getting, incentive payments or whatnot. And then we balance that against the disbursements going out for AP or payroll. So this particular graph, I kind of stripped out the co-op and dish payments that don't come on a regular, they come on a schedule, but they're not like a regular monthly payment. It just focused on their collections. And what this graph really shows you, see the slight lines going up, is that it is going up. So we're going in the right direction in a trended basis of increasing our weekly collections. But it also can have some volatility. And, the volatility sometimes is that we just have a really good week or not so good week. And that can be very payer dependent on just how quickly they're processing claims or if there's any snags there. From a biweekly payroll perspective, this is generally pretty consistent. It looks like we have, kind of an outlier there in that second bar, but it's really only up about $30,000 from the next bar. And that was a point when we were starting a new contribution to a new account that we're putting aside for retirement. And so it kind of bumped up in a catch-up contribution. But if you look at it, on average, our biweekly payroll at about $2.95 million is pretty consistent month over or pay period over pay period. And then AP, and this is our accounts payable where the total of blue and green is kind of the invoices that we have in-house that we're processing and preparing to pay. And we break it out between what's current, meaning if we have the invoice approved, not yet due to be paid, and what could be anywhere from 1 day overdue to multiple days overdue. And you know, this is the one lever I have to control cash. If collections are down or cash is tight, I've got to hold back on accounts payable. Always making, you know, the case that we want to make sure we're paying for things. We don't want any disruption in services. We need to get our supplies. We need to pay all the vendors, but sometimes we have to make some difficult choices about who's getting paid this week versus another week. And so, you know, really what this shows is that, you know, we still struggle with being able to pay everything on time. And that we are having an increasing need to develop payment plans with our vendors. We're lucky that many of our vendors are very willing to work with us on payment plans, and, you know, we make promises to pay, and then we make sure we're following up on those promises to pay. So what does that all mean? Well, it means, you know, for the next at least 3 months, cash is going to be very tight. And I pulled 3 months out because our next large clock payment from the state will come in October. We have a few smaller payments that'll come before then, but we've got to kind of make what we have generally last between now and October, which means the graphs I just showed you, you know, we will continue that tight monitoring. I won't go into all the details here, but suffice it to say, with these smaller and even the large clock payments, we always have to pay in, and then they draw down state funds and they come back to get more back, but there's a timing difference there. And sometimes our ability to pay out is constrained by everything I just talked about. So I go and I negotiate with the state, and they are very willing to work with us to say, okay, just make 10% of that payment, don't make the full payment, because we can be talking about, you know, $800,000 payments. They'll say, just pay 10% now and pay the rest when we draw the funds down. Or they'll say, don't pay anything now and we'll just withhold it from what we're going to pay you later. So that's been helpful to us in managing some of this cash. And then, you know, we also were able to work with the County of Santa Cruz, who's been very generous to us and very supportive. And the letter of credit payment that we make related to our security deposit for the lease to MPT, they have agreed to defer the payment that we were going to make in June, and another one that's scheduled for December. So just make those in 2025 instead. So that gives us, you know, a little bit more cash to spend on operations here. And then, you know, if needed, I look at getting advances against future clock payments, which I've done in the past. So now one more direction change for the night, and then I'll be done. I want to just give you a little preview of where we're headed with budget. We've kicked off our budget season for 2025, and the next 5 months or so, we will be bringing something about budget to every one of these meetings. Tonight, it's about the budget calendar itself and some, you know, high-level projections about where we see volume going for next year. And then in the next few months, we'll really get into some of the detailed parts of building the budget, how we're coming up with the labor and FTEs, how we're coming up with the revenue, what kind of inflation we're building, what kind of initiatives might help us, you know, continue our journey to financial stability, what kind of gaps as we're doing this budget analysis, where some of our challenges are to hit those new targets. And, you know, our hope is to be pretty far along by the end of October and, you know, approving a budget by our November meeting. So that's really the goal that we're working towards. From a volume perspective, most of the time we start looking at our current volumes from like a rolling 12 period, And we start pretty conservative, like in admissions, we said, hey, we're probably gonna get maybe a 1% increase because we have the in-house intensivist, we're able to keep a few more patients than we were before. We've got we're almost to a point of having a full year of GI under our belt, it's been more in the last 6 months where that's brought some more inpatient volume to us. So just kind of current book of business, a 1% increase. But we are looking at some potentials for additional pediatrics volume. So we've added some admissions there. And on the same side, from a surgical volume perspective and the shift that I talked about before, going inpatient to outpatient, we've projected fewer inpatient surgeries for next year. What this really boils down to is we're aiming for an average daily census next year of just under 37 patients per day. We're aiming for fairly flat in deliveries. I put a percentage, but that really only adds about 8 deliveries. But we've seen them be fairly stable month over month for the past couple of years. So don't have any new intel that says it's going to increase significantly. From an outpatient standpoint, we do continue to see outpatient services grow, and we see capacity to take on additional outpatients as we, continue to work on staffing issues that might be challenging us from being open, 5 or 7 days a week in certain areas. The emergency room, they continue to come, even on days where we don't feel like we have capacity, we tend to continue to be busy. So we're looking at a 2 to 2.5% across most of that area. And then the outpatient surgeries, we do look at it at a little bit finer level and try to, project, ortho volume, general surgery volume, spine volume. And it rolls up into having a little bit higher, see my number. It actually says 33% here because the big portion here is the fact that we do anticipate having the cath lab open next year and having volume that we don't have this year, baked in there, about 235 cases. And that is it. So now I'm open for questions.
Joe, we'll go to you first since I can't see you on the screen. Any questions?
No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Julie?
No questions, just comments that I appreciate the time we spent in the finance committee going over this, and then I want to repeat what we said there. It's June, and I'm grateful that you're already planning ahead for our 2025 budget season and putting in place a realistic timeline that's going to get us there. So I don't think I could appreciate how busy you are, and yet I appreciate the quality that we're getting in the monthly financial reports, how you're managing cash, how you're keeping us informed, and how you're keeping progress moving. So I appreciate you and all of your team. Thank you.
You said what I was gonna say. I was just gonna say thank you, awesome report. I really appreciate the way you look at it.
Any other questions or comments before I open up? I don't think we should do a public comment on this, but I think we should.
Nothing's raised online.
Okay, anyone in the public wishing to speak on this item? No? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciate it. Your head's not gonna be, you're not gonna be out and be able to get out of here. I've sat through a lot of these over the years, and I'm so impressed and so thankful that we have you. Because people ask questions and we can give them answers instead of, I don't know. I appreciate that a lot. Thanks.
Any other comments or about this item? Okay, then we will move on from, thanks Julie, and we'll move on from item number 6 to item number 7. And this is a presentation from Interim Human Resources Director Margaret Morgan of the Potter Valley Healthcare District Corporation, Safety, Culture, Organizational Risks, Resilience, Burnout, and Engagement, SCORE, Survey Results and Action Plannings. Mark?
I think I win the prize for the longest title. My presentation. I forgot where to stand. I'll take it away. I'm Margaret Morgan. I'm the interim HR director. So I've been here almost a couple of months, and it's really a great place to never want to leave. But you know, it's wonderful to be here. And as Steve mentioned, earlier this year, the employees participated in the employee engagement survey called SCORE, and I'll tell you what that stands for. Actually, it's that long title that we just talked about. And so before we get into the detail, I just wanted to touch base on, you know, how it fits in our engagement survey into the house we are building, and the foundation being people and engagement, continuous learning, leadership. This survey covers all these points, and feedback from our employees, measurement, analysis, and improvement. So you'll see how it all fits in. This is the dashboard that's you're a little bit familiar with. It used to be that one quadrant, but we're expanding it. And this is a detail for the part about the employee engagement at the bottom. And as Steve mentioned, this will be our baseline survey. The top part is our retention that we've been tracking, and we are at 78, inching our way towards our goal for the year. So I am going to go into the detail, but here's an overview that will be on the dashboard, and our participation in the SCORE survey. The initial one was 377 employees and doctors, and that represented 61%, which is really good for a first year survey. In fact, they told us from the organization that anything over 60 is really statistically, you know, significant. So we are already the first year getting enough participation, and of course we want to improve that as the years go by. So you'll see from my presentation that two of the areas we're going to focus on that were measured is going to, for the first year, is going to be teamwork and the safety climate. And the results from our survey are that we are at 26% for the teamwork domain, and we are the 50th percentile, which will be our target, is 40%, with the best practice at 75% at 59. And this, for safety climate, we're at 31%. Our goal is 54, and then our best practice goal would be 70%. From the results, you'll see, and I'm going to talk about the action plans that each of the departments will be putting together, because they get their, we have the overall results for the hospital, which are those numbers, but each department also gets their own departmental results, and they'll be, they are working on their action plans. So in addition to our survey, other types of employee engagement initiatives that we are doing, just as a reminder, review the survey process. We have employee recognition. We've implemented the Blue Star Awards quarterly. We have, as Phil's mentioned, on the spot, you know, acknowledgement for, you know, positive feedback we get. The directors do that daily at Huddle. They'll pass around cards and from anecdotal stories and feedback we get to give personal thank yous to the staff. And then ongoing, we have town halls. Steve has his for the whole hospital. Phyllis started hers for nursing. We have our newsletter, and in there we have suggestion box, and we've been giving employees an opportunity to make suggestions for improvements, and then we follow up with them. Okay, what does SCORE survey stand for? Safety, culture, operational risk, resilience and burnout, and engagement. And so it really, it gives us an opportunity to see what it's like and talk about what it's like to work here at our hospital. And one of the things that we're working on as far as improvement is just to pick one or two things and really stick with it and make sure it's sustainable and not too many things that you never really get anything done or they kind of fall off.
So the SCORE survey is 102 questions across 15 domains. And there are 9 cultural domains, 6 engagement domains. And I'm going to give you an examples for some of these of what the questions are. So under improvement readiness, it focuses questions on, is this an environment where staff have input? Is there a good learning environment? Is it an environment of self-reflection? For local leadership, it's how available are the directors? Do I get regular feedback on my performance? For personal burnout, work-life balance, and burnout climate kind of goes together. And that has to do with, you know, am I getting my meals and rest periods? Is the work environment efficient? Or am I getting frustrated with slow technology or things that break down? And am I always going home late? Am I having to cancel things at home in lieu of my job? So for teamwork, which is one of the ones that we're focusing on this year, it's going to have a lot to do with communication. Are disagreements resolved in a positive way? Is speaking up difficult? Things of that nature. For the 6 engagement domains, so you can imagine growth opportunities and advancement, intentions to leave, job certainty kind of tie together. Is this a continuing learning and development opportunities? Promotions, is paid, am I paid fairly? Am I getting honest communication about what's going on in my job? All right, so these are all the different the 9 cultural domains that we just talked about and how we scored. And of course, the green bars are our results. And then you'll see the 50th percentile and the 75th percentile amongst all hospitals. And then for the 6 engagement domains, this is how we scored. And this year we are going to focus on 2 of the cultural domains. We're going to focus on teamwork and safety climate. You can see there a couple of the lowest scoring of the domains. And then we believe that everybody should be working on the same thing. And these 2 are a foundation to everything. So under the teamwork domain, these are the questions and the aspects, again, about communication, how are disagreements resolved, what are there breakdowns in communications, is it easy to speak up for safety? So a lot of communication and dealing with each other, and not only just in your department, also other departments. Under the safety climate, the aspects are going to be receiving feedback, making suggestions that are heard. Do I feel safe? Would I feel safe as a patient here? All right, and then here's what we've done for rollout and what's still in progress for this year. So on June 6th, we shared with the leadership all the hospital-wide results, similar to what I was sharing with you. And then each department got their own departmental results. And then starting to plan how they would be working and with their staff to review the results, ask more questions about why the staff answered in those ways, and then start brainstorming, action plans, picking something from their own department results for the team to work on. So they're in the process of doing that right now. Working with the executive leadership, myself, and on the 10th, they'll have those completed and into me, and then we will be taking a look at their progress for their action plans. And this is a timetable, so we're first going to start working on the teamwork, and that will go for the next until the fall, and then we'll start doing the same exercise about safety cultures. Any questions?
Any questions? Joe, can't see you, so I'll let you go first if you have any questions.
It's a comment. Maybe it's a question. Margaret, it's a little hard to follow all of the content. In the process, the improvement process, my hope is that nurses and other employees are integrally involved in the position of making suggestions. Is that how it's set up? Thank you.
Yes, each director is meeting with their staff to not only provide the results, but as a group, come up with what they want to work on. And then we actually gave them a tool, how to approach it in a consistent way with identifying, what are they working on? What's the background? What are the, what's impeding them to get to their target? And then what they're going to work on and how they're going to track it between now and the next survey. The progress.
Okay. Thank you.
Rosie, can we have I think it's just the end of the presentation. Or maybe but any other questions from the board for Margaret? Okay, good.
Margaret, thank you. How long was the survey period open for it? So that it was concluded in March, was it open for a month? Was it open for?
It was just about the full month of March.
Yeah. Thank you. I wasn't here.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
couldn't-
I wasn't here.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else before we open for public comment? No. Okay, Rosie, any raised hands?
No, wait, hold on.
Anybody in the public that wants to comment on this item? Yeah, go ahead.
You paint a really rosy picture about how the employees feel about working here. Is that actually the case?
Well,
Based
actually,
on the statistics that you have there, do you know that for a fact?
some of those areas really are not to the target or the best practice, and those are the ones we are working on.
I always have said that Watsonville Hospital is not a really large home. I think that every particular manager should be able to visit every specific area and check on those meetings that you say are occurring between the directors of the department and their employees. And to really get an actual face-to-face, down-to-earth feeling of what's going on rather than maybe just having reports.
Well, this is not the only.
Margaret, we also don't have to have the back and forth. It's just not good public process, but if you want to just give the comments, Brett, and then.
I got it. Said what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, any other comments from the public about this item? Okay, thank you. Appreciate the report. And we'll move on to item number 8, the Potter Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation Standing Committee's Pilot Pause Program. And Steve, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. So at the beginning of the year, we spoke about two of our standing committees, the Quality and Patient Safety Committee and the Employee Engagement Committee. And we spoke of them in the sense that they were having trouble meeting because they were having trouble meeting quorum. And that there may be a better way to accomplish those goals. And so we started a pilot, a 6-month pilot that we said would run through June, where we tried to accomplish the goals of board involvement with pre-existing committees at the hospital rather than trying to meet the quorum requirements that are written in the bylaws. And so we have done that. We've gone through that pilot. And with feedback from individual board members and also from our council, we are recommending ending that pilot now and going back to our Quality and Patient Safety Committee and Employee Engagement Committees as standing committees of the board, with the understanding that when we come back as a group in August to this meeting, we'll have wholesale updates on the bylaws, and those updates to the bylaws will include rethinking about the membership and the required membership for quorum of those standing committees to make sure that they are the vital few people who need to be there, the 2 board members, whatever executive leadership and frontline staff might need to be there, so that we can be a little more nimble in being able to make quorum so that we can have those meetings on a more consistent basis. and to define the frequency in which they should meet. So with that and the understanding that the quorum requirements are still in place from now until we change them with the bylaws, hopefully in August. I would recommend that we end the pilot that we had said that we would go through now.
Thank you. Any questions for Steve? Joe, I'll go to you, and then I believe you're part of one of these standing committees that was meeting at the hospital. Any just general thoughts about the pilot program?
It's a question for clarification. Steve, I understand these committees would meet at least starting August or after August, but between now and August, are we going to meet or just wait for the bylaws?
So we could still try to meet now, between now and August. We just have to meet the existing quorum requirements that are written in the current bylaws, which have been onerous and difficult, but it doesn't mean we can't try.
Okay, that'd be my hope. I've had
Yeah.
some of the employees say, are we ever going to meet again? So I'm like, yes, we will. So the
Yeah.
sooner the better, I think, for employee engagement.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Steve? Or
I echo Dr. Gallagher's comment, employee engagement, I think is one that would be worthwhile to come back.
Especially now that we're working on the score survey action
And I
plans.
think we finished with that, knowing that it's coming, so
Yep.
I think it's a good rhythm.
That's right.
any other questions? No? Okay, then I'll open it up to public comment on this. Rosie, any raised hands online?
No, cancel line.
Anyone wishing to speak on this item in person? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and entertain a motion for item number 8.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
I'm sorry. who's-
Marcella?
Director Pimento?
Yeah.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Dyson?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes,
Chair Nunez?
Yes, item passes unanimously, and I will adjourn that meeting.